My attempt had failed. He hadn't just forgotten. He had rejected the memory itself. The silence had not protected our love. It had become the weapon that destroyed it. His heart was hardened, and the pain of my vow felt colder than ever. I had to find another way. I had to find a voice. The rejection of the wishing pebble was my final lesson. Tokens of a past love meant nothing to a wounded heart. Kaelen wanted vengeance, not sentiment. My purpose wasn't to win him back with flowers, but to shield him from a danger he couldn't see. I abandoned the border tower. My monitoring showed Lord Vesper's plot was advancing, relying on a set of specialized, magically charged copper wires running beneath the main barracks. They were necessary to channel the Sunstone's power. My new mission became sabotage. I slipped into the palace tunnels and used a controlled burst of counter-magic to sever the copper wires. The damage was minimal but strategic. To anyone looking at the physical evidence, it would appear to be a targeted, internal security breach, designed to weaken the palace's defenses. To Kaelen, it would look like I was still working against him, methodically dismantling his power structure. The irony burned. I was betraying my reputation to protect his life. Yet my actions were having an effect. I saw Kaelen in the courtyard, not mourning but wary. He wasn't just grieving the loss of his bride. He was investigating the strange string of failures surrounding the palace's protective wards. He suspected a deeper game was afoot, but his suspicion, I knew, still pointed straight at me. I was the ghost in his castle, the master architect of his ruin. I realized I couldn't keep this charade up forever. I needed an advocate, a tongue to speak the truth my vow forbade. I began to observe the few remaining honest men in the court. One name surfaced. Faelan, a former court scribe, exiled years ago for refusing to falsify a royal decree. He was known for his soaring oratory and his absolute, almost reckless dedication to truth. He was the only person with a voice strong enough to carry my confession, yet removed enough from the palace drama to be believed. He was my mouthpiece. I watched him from the rooftops as he worked in the lower city, writing letters for illiterate merchants. I studied the curve of his hand as he wrote, the passion in his eyes when he spoke. My surveillance was interrupted one evening. I saw Kaelen pacing the outer wall, deep in thought, clearly still preoccupied with the sabotage. I quickly scratched a symbol, an ancient protection rune related to the Sunstone, onto a loose paving stone near his path, a subtle warning about the specific nature of the magical threat. Kaelen discovered it moments later. He knelt, tracing the lines, his expression shifting from anger to genuine confusion. This wasn't the signature of simple treachery. This was a language he barely understood. Instead of dismissing it, Kaelen immediately called for an aide. I watched him give a crisp order, pointing toward the lower city. The aide's destination. The exile Faelan. Kaelen wanted the rune deciphered. He wanted the truth. Unwittingly, he had drawn my chosen messenger right into the center of our mystery. Faelan was now involved. Faelan was exactly where I expected him to be. The back room of the Antiquarians' Guild, deciphering the ancient rune Kaelen had tasked him with. He was my last hope. I slipped into the room, cloaked and masked. The moment he saw me, a silent, heavily armed figure. He reached for a heavy brass lamp. My hands flew up in a universally recognized gesture of peace. I pulled out a piece of charcoal and a blank parchment. My communication had to be silent, deliberate, and undeniable. I started with a simple drawing of Kaelen's crown, then a drawing of the Sunstone, followed by Vesper's unmistakable family crest. I drew myself, a stick figure with a golden shimmer around its mouth, and then a jagged line to represent the vow. Faelan's skepticism was palpable. He asked questions, his lips moving rapidly, but I could only shake my head, my eyes burning with desperation. I couldn't even mouth the word no, lest the magic test the limits of my silence. I moved to the antiquarian's shelf, my heart hammering a warning against my ribs. I knew the risk. Touching the texts related to the ancient plot might trigger the vow. I quickly pulled two obscure scrolls. I pointed, tracing the coded lines with my fingertip, showing him the specific language that described the magical vulnerability Kaelen faced. The heat of the vow flared on my throat, a painful, silent reminder. Faelan finally understood the immense danger I was in, and more importantly, the immense danger Kaelen was in. His face, once cynical, softened into startled pity. He realized my silence wasn't arrogance, it was sacrifice. I pushed the charcoal and parchment back toward him. My hand trembled as I took his, guiding his fingers across the paper. It was the only way I could speak the words that felt like my lifeblood. His pen moved across the page, writing the silent command of my soul. "Tell my love I am sorry." Faelan reread the line, then looked at my pleading eyes. He didn't ask why I couldn't speak the words myself. He understood the vow's terror. He understood that my death was conditional. It relied on my voice. He nodded a quiet, resolute promise. My confession was now his burden, and my only means of reconciliation. He was going to risk his freedom, and perhaps his life, to speak for the woman who could not speak for herself. The moment of truth was now tied to the royal wedding. The sunstone's energy pulses flared dangerously in the ley lines beneath the palace, a frantic beat counting down to the hour of Kaelen and Lady Seraphina's wedding. The conspirators, certain I was either dead or safely neutralized in the wilderness, were making their final, arrogant preparations. I positioned myself on the high eaves overlooking the cathedral square. From here I watched the procession. Kaelen looked magnificent, yet his shoulders were heavy with a melancholy I recognized as duty overriding desire. He was resigned to his fate. My anxiety tightened into sharp dread when I saw Lord Vesper and Lady Seraphina exchange a quick, cold glance, a look of calculated victory. Seraphina wasn't merely a replacement. She was part of the plot. The marriage was the trigger. I needed Faelan to speak the truth, but I could not rely on mere timing. My silence had failed once. I would not let it doom Kaelen again. I leaped from the eaves and raced toward the palace gates, tearing through the celebration crowds. My mission was now physical. Stop the ritual. As I neared the inner courtyard, I saw Faelan moving with a desperate, hurried gait, clutching a rolled parchment. My confession. Suddenly, 3 royal guards, bearing the specific crest of the Western Marches, Seraphina's family, moved to intercept him. Faelan's face was pale with effort and fear. He was nearly captured, but his exile had taught him to be quick. He elbowed a guard, broke free, and sprinted for the cathedral doors. I didn't wait. The ceremony was beginning. I burst into the cathedral's side entrance, masked and cloaked, a figure of silent, sudden chaos. The vow pulsed violently, warning me not to speak, but the magic allowed me to act.
Did you enjoy the video? Then don't miss out on Tempo de General. Hit that like button, drop a comment and let me know what you thought, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos.